So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jenny Lewis. I'm Director of HR and Organisational Development here in Leeds Teaching Hospitals. I'm delighted to be chairing Report Out today. We've got three really important topics with colleagues reporting out. So on that basis, first of all, we've got Claire McGarry, who's going to be working through some great work that the team have been doing on health and wellbeing. Claire, you'll hand over to Bridget. Can't wait to hear all about the Radiology Led Discharge. And then Bridget, if you can hand over to Donna and Joshua, that would be great for some of the work that's been going on in paediatric cardiac surgery, which again is at 30 days after your RPIW. So can't wait to hear about that as well. And then let's give ourselves some time for some questions and answers on all of those three at the end. So I'll hand over to Claire.
Thanks, Jenny. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Claire McGarry and I'm the Health and Wellbeing Practitioner here at the Trust. So I've recently just finished my intermediate LIM days, and as I started doing the LIM days, I obviously started with the lead and standard work. And it became very apparent after kind of recognising that between three of us that are leads within the team that we were doing 18.5 hours over a week, or we weren't necessarily doing the work we were supposed to do, that was going to be my improvement project. So you can see there the graph of how many hours we're supposed to do against how many hours we were actually allocating ourselves for some of the work we were doing. So started with the really basic stuff, trying to think about where we could save some time, what we could think about in terms of some of our tasks. So you can see the spaghetti diagram there, and then did some time allocations as well, just using some of those tools. This kind of helped us create our admin SOPs as well, so it was a useful exercise in that respect, to ensure that we've got some of that allocation right as well. So we already use Trello quite heavily within our team, and you can see here we've got a really clear board of who's doing what, so clear roles and responsibilities for each piece of work. And we've recently just undergone the Athena OD journey as well, so we'd already kind of agreed what was achievable for the year when we developed our health and wellbeing strategy, so had some really clear roles and responsibilities moving forwards. One of the things that we do as well is we created some sprint boards. So whenever we have projects on the go, we meet quite regularly, really quick and sharp meetings, just to think about if there's anything we've missed. And we started kind of collating and collaborating with some of our teams to do this. So, for example, the comms team will attend our financial wellbeing project sprint, because often it's things that they need to kind of be aware of as well. So that was happening too. We already had everyday improvement ideas on our team monthly, so we've developed this a little bit further now and started to think about what our defects are. Once we started talking about it, we couldn't stop, and we actually had to get to a point where we went, right, we've got enough to work on there. So you can see circled there, I know it's quite small, those are the current defects we're trying to work on at the moment. A really good example of that is when we do talks and bookings, we were recognising that we weren't kind of capping what we should be allocating. So we've now got a spreadsheet that's RAG rated. Once somebody has reached their cap of how many talks and training that we can do a month, we can recognise that we don't have any more capacity within the team that month to allocate to that particular task. So there were a couple of things that also came about when we started the improvement work. So we recognised all of us were going to the same meetings. For what reason, we weren't really sure. So we've kind of reduced some of our duplication within meetings. Our Gemba walks as well, we weren't really doing them. So Jenny would come and do our Gemba walks within the team, but we weren't doing them kind of internally. So thinking about how my senior leader and myself could be doing those Gemba walks a little bit more effectively, so we could really kind of see what else needed improvement. So a couple of things there that we've started to kind of really work on and reduce. So this is where we're at. So we're not finished, we're not complete, but we're in a much better position than we were in January. So you can start to see we're a little bit closer to those lines. Still a bit of way to go, but there's obviously still more work to do as we continue to use our improvements. So this is just an example of how we've used, well, how I have used some of the things that we've learned on the improvement journey. And this is an example of when I facilitated a session with some staff from urgent care about how they could potentially look at getting their breaks. And one of the things that I used, what I really loved, was the exercise where you imagine you're a CEO from a different company. So urgent care, imagine they were a CEO from Disney, Goldman Sachs and John Lewis, and came up with some really great improvement ideas within urgent care to make sure that they're getting their breaks. So thank you for listening, and I'm going to hand over now to Bridget in radiology.
Hi, thank you for that. So you've not just got me today. So hello everybody, my name is Bridget Sutton. I'm a matron for the emergency department and specifically cover minor injury unit, the LGI. I'm talking today with there's two other people who've led on this project. So Tara Bain, who is our business manager, and Amy Richards, who's a reporting radiographer. When I took over the minor injuries unit just over a year ago, what became really apparent was the amount of waste and duplication in the system for our patients who were using that service. The minor injuries unit at that time was located quite a long way away from the main emergency department and X-ray. So we had a duplication in assessments, and we also had people obviously with ankle injuries, knee injuries, having to walk quite a long way away from the department in order to be seen. I approached radiology to see what we could do to improve that, and myself and Amy discussed the possibility of introducing a radiology led discharge pathway for these patients. So we have now already undertaken 3 trial days, which have been fantastic, 2 which were done whilst it was located away from the emergency department in X34. And this work then, you know, really sort of showed us how much we needed to not only to continue with this, but relocate minor injuries up to the main footprint. So, you know, working with our TRI team, we got the support to move that team back up to the emergency department. And our 3rd trial day was run whilst they were back in our main department, our main footprint. And we've gone back to adopting a full see and treat model. So one practitioner sees the patient from the beginning to the end. So we've engaged with our reporting radiographers. We've improved our clinical assessments, and all of this was part of our proposal to work on the quality of care we give, reducing waste and duplication, and improving the actual triage to X-ray as well. So I'll hand over to Tara to explain this bit.
So hello everyone, my name is Tara Bain. I am a business manager in urgent care. So we'll just take it back to the very beginning, like Bridget was just saying. So the original pathway for patients who had a limb injury was quite a long one. You can see all the steps there. In total, it was around 375 metres that a patient had to walk for their entire journey. Now, imagine you walk that and you might have a broken ankle or a broken leg. It's a long way and it's not a great patient experience. Some of the other problems in that original pathway we've put above. So, you know, staff walking around to find patients not being able to find where they need to go, lots of signage, patients tired, patients actually leaving the department. It wasn't a great process. So what we did is we looked at this and identified all the waste in the system and how we could make it better for a patient. So an outcome. So I know there's 2 extra steps, but the first step we did is to change the location with the reporting radiographers, like Bridget's just described. Just by changing the location and implementing that was reduce the amount of time a patient had to walk around by 71%. And the amount of meters the patient took to walk around was reduced a massive amount.
So we looked at some control days in terms of the A&E total journeys. So on this graph here, you can see the black lines represent the control days. So this is what a patient journey looks like when we've not made any changes. The blue lines are minor injuries patients on the trial days, but not the ones that were involved in the RLD process. And then the green bars are patients who were put on the RLD pathway. So you can see by being an RLD patient, it massively reduces your journey time. As we get to the far right-hand side of the graph, you can see that this is when A&E have relocated minor injuries back into the main footprint. So the patient journey time is reduced on that basis. And the average total journey time for an RLD minus patient is less than 1 hour in and out of the doors. So this is just another representation of journey time. So again, black is control days, blue is minor injuries patients on trial days, and green represents the RLD patients. So you can see that the journey time from this one represents X-ray to discharge, so about 30 minutes. The current state of affairs where we are now is that the average journey time from X-ray to discharge is approximately 19 minutes. So in the months since the trials, we've really improved the sort of speed and familiarity of this system. Thank you.
This is looking at our emergency care standard. So if you're not aware of what that is, the emergency care standard says that 95% of patients should be seen, treated and discharged, or a decision made to admit within 4 hours. So what this shows is that on days when there is a radiographer led discharge, our ECS improves, not only for those within RLD and those within minor injuries. It actually makes an impact for all patients within the ED. If you look at control day 3, there is a slight dip. However, this was due to patients waiting for external review, therefore it's outside of our control. But 100% of patients who went through this process was seen, treated and discharged within actually mostly 2 hours, and the wider A&E ECS was much improved, so really good figures.
And patient feedback has been really, really tremendous. As a radiographer, where we don't often get as much patient contact as we might like, I spend a lot of my time reporting now. So being part of this process and having the face-to-face contact with a really grateful, appreciative patient has been really enjoyable.
So what's next? So to be honest with you, we have implemented this 5 days a week. We reported this out at Tactical a couple of months ago. So for full disclosure, so we're a little bit further on than our 30 days, but we've implemented it 5 days a week now. And we've also run 2 days in paediatrics as well to trial that, which has seen some really positive data. We have got a meeting scheduled in to look at the funding for this, but what's positive is actually that this is already looking pretty cost neutral from an improvement perspective. We've got some competency package that we have introduced to the radiographers from a point of view of the treatments that they have to do, which is very minimal, but you know, the application of a walker boot, the fitting of crutches, etc. And all of our radiographers who do this now are fully able to do that. And we're working consistently as a team now on trying to ensure maximum utilisation of this pathway. When we first introduced it, we had some issues with the reliability of it being used all the time, but as it's embedding itself now, as time goes on and becoming part of normal practice, we're seeing it being more reliably used. And I think, in fact, on Monday this week, we had 24 patients go through this pathway, which is massive for us. So yeah, really, really positive. We plan to introduce paediatrics into this process as well, hopefully 5 days a week as well, along with adults. And we're seeing the difference with that will hopefully see the difference for paediatrics as they hit some difficult times later on in the year. As I said before, we know it's questions at the end, but that's it from us. So I will hand over now to Donna and Josh.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name's Josh. I'm one of the business managers and the project owner of Leeds Children's Hospital. So when we were in the planning phase, we agreed that our target was to reduce cancellations of our scheduled cardiac cases that were due to a PICU bed within 6 months by 50%. So although a lot of our cancellations were due to PICU beds and the capacity within that, we also wanted to focus on the improvement in collaboration and the support within our teams and their relationships, but as well, another focus was the timing that the patients were arriving at theatre. Although we've had immense pressures across our sites in the last 30 days with kind of strikes, bank holidays and other operational pressures, we have seen a significant reduction in PICU bed reason for cancellations. So despite all the work that we've been putting in recently, it's been a complete shift, and a lot of the focus has been around kind of our acuity position, so pressures within our acute board within cardiac cases and getting those scheduled through.
Hi, I'm Donna Webb. I'm the matron for critical care. So as you can see here, there's a prioritisation protocol which we redid in the Leeds Improvement Week, and this was done with the input from the Band 7 team on PICU, just to help them with their decision making, because for cardiac surgery they tend to start before 8 o'clock, which doesn't fit in with the bed meeting of the Children's Hospital. So the aim of this was to meet one of his goals, which was reducing the cancellations on the day due to late starts. So I'll be honest, the need to use the protocol over the last 28 days has been fairly minimal, because as Josh has just said, beds have been available for the majority of the last 28 days. However, the feedback from the Band 7 team on the occasions that it has been used has been overwhelmingly positive and has been really useful in helping them make those decisions early.
So fast track and enhanced recovery was something that our lead PICU consultant and lead cardiac surgeon really wanted to push with, and these particular patients needed to be selected prior to scheduling because they needed to be a certain patient to get through the system. But because of our acuity position, we've not been in a position to really kind of focus on this, and it's been very kind of ad hoc when these patients have been selected, and when the opportunities kind of been given to us. We have highlighted through feedback with discussing with the wider team about particular days which are better for kind of bed capacity, and when comparing it to the rest of the specialties within the trust, within the CSU, when they're scheduling their patients. So we have an absolute plan to kind of implement this and have one day a week where we'll be selecting a patient in particular that we can get through and fast track and get them recovered quickly and out of the PICU. But at the moment, we haven't been in a position to kind of run with this project, but we absolutely know what we're going to do in the next 60 days, which is really exciting. This is two different projects that link together, which come around the feedback that we had around kind of building on the collaborative relationships across all of our teams. So we're talking here about theatres, anaesthetics, our cardiac surgeons, PICU consultants, the nursing team and the admin team. So we continue want to build on this relationship, and these are what these two projects have been about. So the staff forum is still in its working phases, and we're planning to have at least one and pushing for two before our next report out. We're currently working with the psychologists within the CSU to kind of steer this conversation, understand how best we can absolutely adapt this and kind of bring it to the wider teams. But everyone's really eager to get this in motion now, so that's the feedback that we've had. What we have been able to do really successfully is hold a people link. So this people link runs every Thursday. It's a quick 10-minute session where all these multidisciplinary teams meet together. It's hosted by myself, and we do a data sharing and kind of give a really clear, broad picture about the position that we're in, whether from a PICU perspective and a cardiac perspective as well for our patients. So it's been absolutely fantastic, the attendance every single week. We've held 4 sessions now. The feedback's been really great. We have 5 minutes after the 10-minute session where we just talk and have a bit of a conversation about what people really want to see next week, and it's constantly evolved. We've taken things away that haven't really worked. There's been really good feedback. More people want to attend, so we're looking at making it a bit more remote, because at the moment it's face-to-face. But it's something that we've really been able to kind of meet, and we've been able to kind of get really good feedback from. So we're going to absolutely continue this running every single week. We're going to start sharing it with different people leading it so that we can have a different perspective. But yeah, we're really excited to carry on with this.
So part of the sort of building relationships between people and between the teams, we sort of in the midst of the week, the morning huddle was sort of born, which it identified that the communication process wasn't joined up, and we weren't sharing the problems that each team had. The focus had been very much on the fact that there wasn't a PICU bed, but actually there was problems in other areas that were then not being identified. So in addition, also the decision whether we sent the patient or not never actually reached Ward 51. So theatres would know what was going on and PICU would know what was going on, but Ward 51, where the patient actually was sat, did not know what was happening. So this then led to delays in the patient not being prepared to the theatre, which then led to late starts, which obviously was one of the things that we were looking for. So what we decided to do is, with the theatres and PICU meet on a morning at 7:15, and then the decisions documented on PPM. So when on 51 they finished handover at 7:30, instead of waiting for phone calls or like I said, not knowing what's happening, it's documented on PPM from that meeting at 7:15, and then this information is easily accessible to the staff on 51, which means between 7:30 and 8 they can have the patient ready to go to theatre. The feedback from 51 has been, again, overwhelmingly positive, because obviously this has made things a lot easier for them on a morning, and also takes out the sort of not knowing part of it. And obviously they received the decision much earlier than they would have done before. However, we have noticed sort of over the last week or so that the attendance from theatres, because it is held on PICU, so obviously that makes that easy for them, has sort of drifted off slightly. So we know we've still got work to do to embed this properly and make it into everyday practice. But, we do know that when it does happen, it does work. So obviously, as planned going forward in the next 30 days is obviously to make sure we re-engage theatres and just make sure that we do embed it in everyday working. So looking at what these obviously were our measures from as Leeds Improvement Week. As you can see, as lead time, the aim is an hour because the decision is made between made around 7 to 7:15. But theatres doesn't actually start till 8 o'clock. So as you can see, on the observations we've done, we've slightly slipped underneath that, and that's because we did have a couple of early starts of getting the patient from 51 to theatre, in through the doors before 8 o'clock. So hopefully we'll be able to keep up to that. Otherwise, I don't want it to look like we've slipped back when we get to 60 days. We've had no cancellations on the day over these last 28 days, which is just, for us is phenomenal. As in, some of it, as we've said earlier, is down to circumstance, but obviously some of them I definitely, believe is down to the work that we've done. And again, we've had no late starts, and like I say, the documentation of whether there's a bed and whether there's theatre staff on PPM has obviously just made a massive difference in that, because like I say, 51 were almost kept out of the communication thread until 8 o'clock when the theatres were ready for the patient, which actually obviously led to a delay. And then obviously because we've had no late starts, there's been no information to record incorrectly on 3 Theatre Pro, if that makes sense. So obviously we look like we've made major improvements when you look at as a final and as a baseline and what we've done at 30 days. But me and Josh and everybody else in the team are very aware that some of this has come from the work we've done, but some of it also has come from the circumstances we've found ourselves in over the last 4 weeks.
And just coming back to the patient satisfaction and staff satisfaction, so we've not really been in a position to go away and kind of record the patient satisfaction at the moment, because it's kind of been running so smoothly. But in the next observations we've got planned over the next 60 days, we've highlighted key moments where we're going to be focused on this, especially with kind of our fast track patients as well, to get that sort of information from them. The staff satisfaction, after the people link, there's been a big group discussion around feedback in those sessions, so we've been making a note of that and pulling that through for the next sessions to follow through, and some of it has been linked around stuff. So in yesterday's session, people did discuss the morning huddle, and that's kind of where we got the feedback around attendances, but theatres were present there. So what they've said is when they attend their meeting at 7:15 in the morning, they can also then swing by straight after for the 7:30 huddle. So we've already highlighted where we can improve that, which is really good. We have got a bit of feedback forms going around, so they have been started collecting over the last couple of weeks. We just want to keep those rolling for a little bit longer, so we can get as much feedback from staff across the whole CSU and theatres, and then we can be able to share that data with everyone. But that's everything from us today, unless anyone has any questions, or if we're just leaving them to at the end.
Wow. Excellent report out. That is absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to open it up to questions, comments. What's front of mind for those that have had the privilege of listening to that? I've learned lots. Claire?
Thank you, and I echo that. I thought that was absolutely superb and really uplifting, actually, to hear about all the stuff that's going on across the trust. I was at when we used to do the tactical meetings on the Friday before it became Friday Focus. We obviously heard about the work that was happening across the minor injury units and the radiographer work. But even from when that was last presented to where it is now, it's clearly come on leap and bounds. And when Tara was showing that slide about how far and how long people were having to walk, and I'm thinking to myself, these are people with injury, with injuries where they're really struggling to walk around the department, and yet we had designed a process where they had to be on their feet and moving. So I just think, all in all, it's a massive congratulations to that team in terms of the difference, not just from a ECS and timeliness of care perspective, which is important, but just the experience and predominantly the experience of our patients when they're feeling really quite vulnerable and in pain, to be able to to make that difference. I think I really take my hat off to you. I really do. And on that last one around the PICU and the way that you're working, I already knew about that, and the reason I already knew about that was yesterday. I was having a meeting with Suzanne Abrahams, the general manager for Children's, and she specifically mentioned that work and the impact of that work. But even from a mindset perspective, in terms of being able to support timely treatment of our our patients. And you know, when you put that slide up, they're real littlies, some of these, aren't they, as well, in terms of patients that we're treating, and the difference it's making from them from a timeliness of care perspective. And those of you that watch Saving Lives in Leeds, you'll have the number of times people were cancelled and so on for beds. All of this work links into our annual commitments to reduce length of stay so that we can treat patients in the best way possible and reduce all of those cancellations. And I really am incredibly grateful to colleagues for their endeavours. Really, I know that's not a question, but I really felt the need to say that, because I just thought bravo is what I would say.
Fabulous, thanks, Claire. And Jimmy, did you want to come in?
Hard to follow that acknowledgement, but I would echo it. Really proud to hear what's been delivered by colleagues. Some I'm quite excited on. I was in the RPIW week and had the privilege of working through some tough stuff with these people, because I think what I would call out is Report Out. We celebrate where we've got to, but what people don't sometimes see is the challenges to get to that place. So I would not acknowledge that, both for the team during the week as we shared at our Report Out 30 days ago, but also, you know, calling it out. We've had very, very light touch with these guys. So all of this work is because they have committed to keeping going. And that's the tough bit to do when you're back in the day job and you're not in the improvement events. So I want to call it out, thank them for it, and give them that impetus that we've got sight of it now, and we're all keen to see that it keeps going. And you know, one more, as we always said, like one more surgery for one of these patients is a massive difference. So brilliant to see the scores there. And there's so much to pick up, and I know we're short of time, so I just want to say fantastic to hear from the other teams. Love that data, love your approach. What a difference for our patients. It's a privilege to work with you guys. It's a really good thing to take into the weekend. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jimmy. Well, and Jimmy, you've answered my question actually, because my sense was that these have been being led by those that are presenting the work today, which I think is a profound shift for us as we're coming out of COVID. So Claire, I loved your concept of your sprint board, where if you were needing somebody else to be part of the conversation, we don't ask them to be part of a 30-minute conversation when they're only needed for a few minutes. I love that you're also cascading the Gemba walks, so you're role modelling, you know, what I try to role model. I really appreciated the example around urgent care and getting them to be thinking through their issues through a different mindset. And Bridget and Amy and Tara, gosh, there was so much in there. But the bit I really liked about what you described was the impact that it had on the rest of the patients in ED and the ECS times for the rest of the patients in ED, as well as for those that you've been very specifically focused on. I thought that was absolutely awesome. And of course, we're seeing your ECS performance just go up the benchmark scale, aren't we? When we compare ourselves to other trusts, we're seeing you just continually improving, which is absolutely phenomenal to see. And then just Donna and Josh, to be able to say no cancellations, no late starts. I mean, when you think about just what is at stake for these patients is phenomenal. And again, you'll know I will like this sort of thing, but I loved the fact that your People Link on a Thursday is working and working well, because we know so much that our collaboration value is the one. We're organised in teams, but we know we've got to come together across teams in order to be able to make this work. And you really could see that coming through live and really impactfully in some of these examples. So when all I've done this week is talk about strike, I'm over the moon to have spent this time with you. It's been an absolutely brilliant half-an-hour report out, and I love that it's being led by those that are doing the work and improving the work. Jimmy, I think it's facilitated, of course, by the KPO. Jimmy, did you want to come back in?
You've given me a beautiful segue, so I'm going to take the opportunity to congratulate Katie, who's on the call, who has just successfully been appointed substantively to our team. She's done some brilliant work for the last 8-9 months since we stole her from corporate nursing. And yeah, delighted that we can have her on a permanent basis. So she, fits that beautifully. So well done, Katie, and good to have you with us a bit longer.
Thanks.
Brilliant. That's great news. I didn't know that, Katie. Congratulations. Okay, well, a minute passed. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you're working over the weekend, I hope it's an okay weekend. If you're not, I hope you get some great downtime. Nice to see you all, folks.
Thanks, Jenny.
Okay.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.